right? What do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
You might think that getting into the IT field is impossible without a computer science degree, but Tech Coach Ralph is here to prove you wrong. Get ready for some jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into this lucrative industry. Listen up, tech enthusiasts! Are you ready to break through into the IT field, but feel like you need a computer science degree to make it happen? Think again! Tech Coach Ralph has some exclusive, mind-blowing secrets to share with you. Get ready to be blown away by his jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into the tech industry without a computer science degree. So get your notepad ready, because Tech Coach Ralph is going to change your life forever. Buckle up, because you're about to embark on a journey to success in the IT field.
It's time!
Welcome back. We are at it again. We had some major disappointing technical difficulties on Sunday when we were trying to live stream, and it didn't get to happen. So we are here today. I am closely monitoring the connection speed, and so far we didn't even get this far on Sunday. So it's looking good. I made some adjustments, as well as this morning when I woke up to go to jiu-jitsu class. The internet wasn't working. As I was leaving, I saw the cable company working down the street. So I don't know if it's them or if it's the adjustments that I made. I moved the mesh router around to be closer to me, and been getting good connection speeds. We are going to hope for the best today, see how far we can get, and let's do what we do. All right. So I want to welcome in everybody. I already see that Beatrice is in the chat. Shout out to you, Beatrice, and to Miss Randy, who is in the chat. Shout out to you, Miss Randy. So happy to have you here as always. All right. So let's get into what we normally do. Let's get into our agenda for today, right? So I didn't get to do this on Sunday. So I want to say shout out to the newest subscribers. Thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate you.
It is an honor for me to be able to share with you, for you to be a subscriber, to get the notifications of all the latest videos, because I just hope that I'm adding tons and tons of value into your life in the tech industry, and whatever other way it may be. But I'm happy to have you here, and feel free to reach out to me anytime with any questions or suggestions. Just like about an hour and a half ago, I jumped on a call with someone that I had made a suggestion to when I was looking at reviewing some work that they did maybe about a month ago, and they sent me a message last week saying, "Hey, do you have a few minutes that we can jump on a call? I just want to get some more insight on what you were talking about." So we jumped on the call, took him through some API stuff, and he got it, and he said he's going to give it a try. So and that's what we do here. We aspire to push people to grow, to think of different ways of doing things. I believe that part of being, for me, being a QA engineer, is to explore and find, revolutionized ways of doing things. Not just stick to some standard way that they tell you to do in some certification. You got to be creative, you got to be innovative, and you got to pioneer. You have to break through. All right. So just wanted to shout out to all the people that I've been in contact with, the people that I'm going to be in contact with, to the newest subscribers to the channel. But in addition, I want to shout out to all of my tech barbarians who are putting in the work. We are on so part of the being in the tech barbarians, you have the option to gain experience in the industry by, joining our team, where we create like little applications and stuff like that. But the most important part of it is being able to go through the software development life cycle, where you get actual experience of, how to work on a team, how to use Jira, how to use Scrum, or, things like that we do that gives experience to you, and it builds your network and things like that. So shout out to the barbarians who are putting in the work. We're on our third sprint. at Scrum Night the other night. It was amazing. So just shout out to you guys for doing an amazing job.
We the best.
All right, so let's get into our show schedule because I don't want to keep you guys here all night. And I do need to get some rest because last week I was in Nebraska. It was a good time, but the time zone change, although you think it's just an hour back, it does not work for me. I don't know. Me and change are not good. Weird to say as innovative as I like to be, but yeah, me and change, we don't get along very well. So anyways, let's get into our show schedule, right? So Sunday afternoons, we have at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have software explorations. We have been focused on Terraform, right? So this coming Sunday, we are going to pick up on Terraform. My plan is, so what I got to work last time, which I'm going to show you on Sunday, is we use Terraform to provision an AWS EC2 instance, and we installed Docker on that EC2 instance, and we started the Selenium grid, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to push forward this coming Sunday where we're going to install a copy a repo, like we're going to clone a repo into it, and then we're going to install Python, and we're going to launch a test script, right? So that would be a scenario that a QA engineer, in my perspective, that a QA engineer would use Terraform to run an automated test on a AWS EC2 instance provisioned through Terraform, right? So that's going to be the goal for this coming Sunday, and then we'll keep going with the class. We're like, because we as QA engineers, we want to be like full stack. We want to be able to do anything, right? We want to make ourselves what's the best? What's the way? I want to say we want to make ourselves very resourceful and very skillful so that we can we're not at fear of anything. All right, we don't want to fear anything. We want to dominate and execute. All right. So all right. So Sunday afternoons, software explorations, Terraform right now, 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tuesday nights, which is tonight, we have our Q&A sessions at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Thursday nights, we have software explorations where we have, so it's Thursday nights is a little more QA oriented. We've been trying to work through Airflow and Selenium Wire. If I do not get the Airflow configuration working by this Thursday, then I might pivot a little this Thursday until I get that Airflow configuration working, and then we'll go back to it. But we'll figure that out when we get there. But Thursday nights, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, more software explorations. Right now, very QA oriented. All right. So that is our live show schedule. All right. Now let's go into our pre-recorded content, right? So Mondays, we have Candid Conversations, right? So all these shows come out at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Monday's Candid Conversations. This past Monday, I talked about bad advice given on LinkedIn. You got to watch it, right? Because it last week in the office, we had a team building exercise, and one of the questions was like, what's your pet peeve? I should have answered this. Bad advice on LinkedIn. I see so many people, they're trying to transition into a career. And while they're trying to transition into a career, they're liking and commenting on the most ridiculous advice that I've ever seen. That is surely going to, if you were to implement those practices, it'll surely prevent you from landing that position. Unless you are an amazing superstar that your attitude, that your skills outweigh your negative attitude. So avoid bad advice on LinkedIn. So I would say definitely check out that candid conversation with an example in there on the type of advice you should definitely avoid and how you should carry yourself to land that position that you want. All right. So Mondays, candid conversations. Wednesdays, software explorations, concept and overviews. Tomorrow, we are going to go over the page object model because one of my good friends asked me the other day, she was like, hey, all this content that you have, it's so much, but do you have one about the page object model? And I said, that's a good question. Let me check. And I checked and I'm like, oh, I touched on it on a couple of live streams, but I do not have one dedicated to the page object model. So when you ask, you shall receive. And I recorded it this morning about the page object model, which will be presented to you tomorrow at noon. right? So follow along with that, which it also includes a live example in there. I'm not implementing it, but walking through it. But one of these coming Thursdays, I will be going through a live implementation of the page object model where you can ask me any questions about it as you wish, right? So this coming Wednesday, tomorrow, right? October 11th, 2023 at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the page object model, a presentation, an overview to give you a easy to understand explanation, right? So Wednesdays, software explorations, concept and overviews, and Fridays at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Bug Bite, where we review a bug in the industry that affected a company and its customers and all of that. This coming Friday, we are going to talk about the Apple iOS go to fail bug. All right. So look out for that. All of that is coming out this week. So, and then throughout the week, we have short clips of our Q&A session where I just cut up the videos because, sometimes you can't sit here for a whole 2.5 hours. You have courses to take, you have to study, you have things to do. So, but there's specific information that you want. So I cut it up for you and I make it available in, 5 to 10 minute clips where you can digest that information a little bit easier. Okay. So that is our pre-recorded content. And last but not least, if you haven't done so yet, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And of course, you see the banner there. Check out the Patreon. There is tons and tons of information that's in there that is going to help you. You get access to my resume, you get access to my LinkedIn. See how I updated my resume, see how I update my LinkedIn so that I can stay visible and different strategies. I'm a strategist, right? Different strategies that are coming out. I try to do it on a weekly to bi-weekly basis where I can put another video out. It was kind of tough last week not being in town, but I have a video that I am planning to record exclusively for the Patreon members about what kind of questions you should ask in an interview. You guys really need to understand every part of the interview is super important, especially when they ask you, do you have any questions for us, right? So check it out. That video is going to be coming soon. It is going to take your interview skills to the next level, guaranteed. All right. So check out the Patreon, sign up. At the lowest tier, you get access to all the videos, all the resources and everything like that. The higher tiers, you get one-on-one calls with me. So check it out, see what works for you, and join the Patreon. Become a tech barbarian. Okay. So like the video, like I said, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Okay. Okie dokie. So the show format is going to go. We're going to put the clock up. Put the clock up right now. And we are going to have 5 minutes where we're going to review a question. Then I'm going to answer it. Put 5 minutes on the clock. Sometimes normally we go a little bit over, but we want to time box it to about 5 minutes and then we go from there. So that is our plan for tonight. All right. All right, so let's do this. But have our clock up, and we are going to go to the countdown. All right, so let's do this. Where are my questions? Here we go. Actually, before I'm going to answer a question that in one of the discords that I'm in, I've seen I know why I've seen it so many times in the past week, but I'm going to answer it from if I was going to do this. All right, so let's do this first, right?
Another one.
So this is the question that I've seen a lot the past couple of weeks, right? I am in insert field here. It might be trucking. It might be accounting. It might be a warehouse worker, whatever the case may be, right? And I want to make more money. I want to join the tech industry. I want to go into, usually the case is, cybersecurity all of a sudden, right? Now, cybersecurity is the most popular thing. So QA engineer, people who want to go into QA, people who want to be data engineers, who want to be data scientists, want to be software engineers. You have some breathing room because everybody wants to be in cybersecurity now. So learn quickly, get that job, because once the new hype, because once the hype comes back for your industries, then you're going to have a lot more competition. But right now, everybody wants cybersecurity. So how, like, what do I need to do? I know nothing about cybersecurity, but I want to make a lot of money in cybersecurity and maybe without coding, right? What do I do? All right. So this is what we're going to do, right? If I wanted to go into cybersecurity, right? Here's what I would do, right? Which, I mean, I don't think I really want to, but here's what I would do, right? If I wanted to go into cybersecurity, the very first thing I would do is go on google.com and search, what is cybersecurity, right? That's the very first thing I'm gonna do. I'm gonna search for what exactly is cybersecurity, right? To get a better understanding, not just a cool fad word of like, oh, like cybersecurity, it's cyber, it's the net and it's security. Okay, yeah, we got that, but what are the aspects of cybersecurity? I need a better understanding of what cybersecurity is. All right. So I am going to go into that and get a real better understanding, right? So that's the first thing. Find out exactly what cybersecurity is, what it entails, right? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually look for the what jobs are in the cybersecurity field, because believe it or not, there is not a job called quote unquote cybersecurity. Or maybe there is, but there's not one to my knowledge called cybersecurity analyst or engineer or whatever, right? So I need to know what are the positions that are listed under cybersecurity, right? That's what I need to know. Okay. So now once I know what those jobs are, right, I'm going to research each one of them one by one to see, okay, what is the research I'm going to do? I'm going to see, okay, what does this position entail? What type of education? Does it require any type of certifications? How much does it pay? Where are these jobs mostly located? Right? Can I do this job remote? What is the likelihood of landing a remote job? Especially like at an entry level? What is the entry level salary range? Right? All of these things need to be researched. It's not just, I want to do cybersecurity. In 6 months, I'm a cybersecurity engineer, right? There is so much research that you need to do. And when you just go in, I know nothing about it, tell me everything. It doesn't work that way, right? I've seen someone who has been, it's like God sent information that he's sharing, but it's like he ends up having to share the same information over and over and over again because he's getting the same question over and over and over again, right? And I'm like, we need to do some research, right? Like for me, I would prefer if somebody comes to me like, I'm interested in cybersecurity. I looked at these different positions and I honed in on like these 3 positions, right? And this is what I know about them. Now I want to know how I can better get myself into that field and what I can do to, land a job. How can I make my resume good? What courses should I take? All that, right? So that, to me, that is how to properly prepare for what we want instead of just saying, I know nothing, tell me everything, right? It's not beneficial to you. You're expecting someone else to do most of the work for you, and no, you need to do the groundwork yourself, and then you come into it, and now you ask the experts like, okay, this is the research that I've done. What am I missing? What can you help me with? And now we're like, all right, cool. Now we have something to work with, right? Here's the other thing. So back to me, if I'm pursuing this, right? So I'm doing the research and everything like that. So now I know some details about what I want, but I don't have the education. So now I need to get the education. So what am I going to do, right? So I'm going to research, okay, let's say it's a site reliability engineer, right? Maybe that's what I want to go into. Maybe I like how much they get paid, and maybe I like the work that they do. Maybe I like the thrill of being on call, putting out fires, dealing with chaos, all this type of stuff, right? Maybe that's me personally. I like that type of stuff, right? I get it brings excitement to me to be in the drama of technical drama, right? Not personal drama, technical drama, right? So I look into like site reliability engineer, like what do I have to do, right? So it says, okay, what are my educational options, right? I'm gonna say, okay, where can I get my education for the cheapest price, right? So I'm sure you're gonna find, okay, I'm sure you're gonna find tons and tons of boot camps that can teach you this information, right? But me, I like a low entry cost, right? So if I want to start working soon, what am I gonna do, right? What I would probably do is go and look for maybe. I know a lot of people like Coursera. You can go to Coursera. I think they charge you maybe a monthly fee or something like that, but you can go to Coursera. Or me, I like going to Udemy, right? Just because I like to get the courses at a low cost. So I checked on a cybersecurity course today, and it was like $15.99 on sale for $15.99, right? So I'm like, oh, this is a good course, about 6 hours long. You get a lot of details, and it'll give you a entry point, right? So I would get some education, right? And now after I get the education, now I need to find some experience. So I'll start looking for some experience into the field, right? And I would how would I get experience? Practice. Find scenarios, find things that I can do that I can, like maybe doing some penetration testing. I can do some, maybe sign up for like one of those hackerone.com. And when you sign up for HackerOne, then you say, I'm a beginner, and it's gonna guide you through how to do some security testing, how to like, do some penetration testing, stuff like that, right? And then when I'm getting better at it, I'm going to make sure I have a good resume, right? I'll sign up for the Patreon, sign up for my own Patreon, right? And I'll submit my resume to myself, and I'll say, hey, can you help me with my resume? I'm like, sure, right? And now we fix your resume, right? Shout out to Adrian, who has the most amazing resume now that I've ever seen, right? And we get your resume right, and then you start applying. And when you start getting request interview, now we do interview prep, right? But once you land that job, it's not it. You still have to continue to build. And if you want to move up, right? If you want to move up, then you're going to want to, get some more education, right? And that could be, that education could be like, going through like maybe a community college. It could be, trying to get like associates and then a bachelor's, because while course places like Coursera, Udemy, and everything like that, they're great to teach you the information. But when you want to try to move up the ladder, now it's a competition between you and the next guy. And if you guys know the same amount of information, and you guys are just as good at each other, they're going to look at little things that are going to stand out, right? So I would say, while I don't think that that form of education is the end all be all, the way that I see it is you want to stand out from the rest. So you can just do what you have to do to that it makes it there's no other option but you, right? So that is how I would approach it if I wanted to go into cybersecurity. But it's not only limited to cybersecurity, into any position or field that I wanted to go in. That's how I would approach it, right? I'll do the research, right? Understand what I'm getting into, and then I'd go to find me an expert who's going to mentor me, and I'd pay for them to mentor me as well, because when you're getting mentored, you're not taking that much of the person's time, right? It's not like you're going to a boot camp where you're paying like $20,000 and they're holding your hand. No, I just need some guidance here and there, right? And pay them for their time and go from there. So that is how I would approach if I wanted to get into another field, another industry, specifically in this example, cybersecurity. All right. So hope that helped. I hope that helped clear some things up. All right. All right. So now let's get to our first question of the night. All right. So
another one.
So this one says, had a weird interview experience. After applying nonstop for 2 months, I finally landed an interview for a QA automation role. However, they didn't ask a single testing question. They asked nothing about methodologies, nothing about what makes tests valuable, nothing about anything actually. They literally asked no questions. This one and done interview for one of the largest employers in my city was 30 minutes of hacker rank style coding questions. It was a major red flag. It was a major red flag to me, and there's no chance I would consider an offer. In my opinion, just because you are the best programmer doesn't mean you'll be the best tester, and this interview was not a way to build out a good testing team. Testing requires an inquisitive mindset. Automation requires strategies to avoid building a mess that requires endless test maintenance. The code itself is simple, but the mind behind it is everything. This is only the second time I run into this style of interview in my career, but it's disheartening to see us boil down to lines of code and not the art that is software testing. What's everyone's thought on this? And then they had to edit. They also offered virtually zero info on the team, project work, and saved no time at the end for questions. All right, so let's put our timer up. So I agree with of what this person believes that testing is, and that just because you can code pretty good doesn't mean that you're going to be a good tester and all of that. But here is where I separate from their sentiments, right? I'm very practical, right? Pragmatist, practical, right? So you've been applying nonstop for 2 months, right? And you can't land an interview to save your life for a QA automation role, right? And you have all these opinions on how this company is doing their interview hiring practice. For me, at least, I wouldn't really care unless you feel some type of way because you might not be that confident or competent in your automation skills. I don't know, but I wouldn't have that hold me back, because guess what? I am a pioneer, right? And if I when I'm coming into a new position, a new role, I come into it with a leadership mindset, with a senior mindset, with a pioneering mindset of, okay, I don't really care what might not be, like, what you're doing that might not be the best practices, because I know that I can make a difference and I can make a change, right? So I don't let that hold me back. I care more about the work in general, right? And that's why I'm like, if they're doing hacker rank, like I remember when I was interviewing people for a position, right? And I created a hacker rank test, which was more QA based, but there was some automation questions in there. There were some questions about like mindset, how you'd approach something and everything like that. And then like one of the things that I talked to Don about is like with the chaos camp, I think it's a really, really good interview style to if we were to be able to see someone work through an automation challenge, right? So let's say the MP3 metadata challenge, right? I would love to see somebody work through that to see like how do they think through it and stuff like that. I think so. I'm not opposed to like coding tests or coding challenges. It just depends on the nature of the challenge. But the problem is like when you say that You say that it was a major red flag to me, and there's no chance that I would consider an offer. Um, I I I would like well, if I've been looking for a job for 2 months, I would definitely consider. Doesn't mean accept, but I would definitely consider an offer from anybody, right? Like that. That's kind of I'm not going to let my pride and ego get the best of me, because I didn't put myself in a position to win. But at the same time, when I come into it, I'm like, all right, cool. After I get the position and I establish my name, my credibility, and now I'm part of the hiring team, I'm going to say, hey, maybe this methodology of interviewing is not the best, right? Maybe we shouldn't be relying so heavily on HackerRank to be able to tell us whether a candidate is solid or not. Maybe we need to actually ask some testing questions, some critical thinking questions, some what do you know, like what about some API stuff? Maybe like maybe this company they're not really well versed in analyzing QA, QA like for people for automation and for testing and stuff like that. Maybe you could be that person who brings that knowledge and that change to it, right? But when we approach it with that like egotistical mindset of like, oh, I would never consider a company like that, well, guess what? They are going to be hiring someone else who could be doing the work that you could be implementing, the stuff that you didn't like. Maybe that was your opportunity to implement some change and put your foot on it, put your thumb on it, and you rejected it because you felt some kind of way, right? I don't think that is beneficial to you whatsoever, and it limits you from potential growth into your career. So, me, I don't really care about red flags. I see everything as an opportunity for growth and success. All right. So that's how I see it. I don't know. Maybe you guys think differently, but that is how I think that you have the best opportunity to win and to grow within a company is what you see wrong, you be the voice of change, right? And you make things better. And just to touch on this real quick, right? You said that, where was it? You said that you didn't even have a chance to ask any questions. Well, if you really wanted to ask a question, right, just ask it, right? You shouldn't be waiting for them to say, "Hey, do you have any questions?" No, I have a question. Can I ask a question? And they're gonna say, "Yes, of course." And you ask your question, and you go from there. Oh, can you tell me a little bit more about the project? See, I am not going to give you the questions because that is going to be Patreon level information. Look out for the video coming out on the Patreon about what questions to ask at the interview. So that's how I see that one. All right. All right. Let's get to our next one.
Another one.
So this one says Cypress or Selenium. All right. I'm about to leave in 3 months of 2 years of primarily manual but recently automation testing job in QA. So I'm going to guess this person is maybe in India because I just recently found out that you have to give about a 90-day notice when you're leaving a job in India. So I'm going to say this. We have it pretty good here because here we give a 1 to 2 week notice if we want to. Out of courtesy, we give a 1 to 2 week notice because when they fire us, we do not get we don't get a 2 week notice when we get fired. So here we can give a 2 week notice before we're out and about into our next endeavors. But over there in India, it's like, nope, you got to give 90 days before you leave. So I'm going to guess this person might be in India, right? So it says, I've transitioned in the company from content operations to QA as a total novice, but gained a ton of knowledge along the way. We were operating in Selenium with robot framework using Python. I've noticed that there's mostly inquiry for Cypress in the job market. Should I pivot towards Cypress and push in that front more? I know that the job market these days is grim, so probably should I, yeah. Oh my God, the grammar. I know that the job market these days is grim, so should I adapt? All right. So we have the good old Cypress versus Selenium question. So I'll throw this in there too, right? I think the ones that I hear about the most nowadays is so of course Selenium WebDriver is always going to be there, right? It is the top dog in the industry. But then we have Playwright and we have Cypress, right? What I'm going so this is what I would recommend if I was coaching a QA engineer, and this is what I recommend to the QA engineers that I do coach, right? The automation framework that you use is not as important as the concepts that you use, right? The concepts are more important than the framework, right? So when I went through, I haven't gone through Cypress yet, right? But I have seen like another person I'm coaching, they're using Cypress for a freelance project that they're on. And guess what? Because they know Selenium, they're able to apply the concepts of Selenium to Cypress, right? It's just a different language. It's in JavaScript. And you know, they have some familiarity with JavaScript, but you know, they've been working in Java with Selenium for the past few months, but they're able to adapt, right? Because the concepts are what's important, right? So what do I mean by the concepts, right? Check out the video tomorrow about the page object model, right? You can apply the page object model when you're using any automation framework because the page object model is a design pattern, not a framework. Okay. So now specifically to Cypress versus Selenium versus Playwright, right? I would say the number one requested, like do your research, do your own research, right? The number one requested is still Selenium WebDriver, right? It might be through Java, it might be through Python. I think the most requested is Selenium WebDriver through Python. I mean, the number one requested is Selenium driver through Java, right? That's what I believe. The reason I believe that is because it's probably like the first one that came out and it has the most features, the most development done on it. Closely second would be Selenium WebDriver with Python, right? But at the same time, you know, there's different libraries that are coming up. I did an experimentation. I did a software exploration with Playwright, and it was very cool, right? There's a lot of people who are starting to ask for Playwright, but it is not the most popular. So here's what I say, right? I say that you spend the majority of your time learning Selenium WebDriver, and then so let's say you spend, let's go 70% of your time, right? Learning, like if you're learning automation, spend 70% of your time learning Selenium WebDriver, right? Whether you're doing it through Java or you're doing it through Python, spend 70% of your time learning that, right? Now, the other 30%, allocate 15% of your time to Cypress, 15% of your time to Playwright. Okay? And I would, if I had to break it down, to get, so depending on your level, right? I would say do that 70% of Selenium WebDriver with Java because to me that's the most popular, right? Now the 15% of Playwright, do that in Python, right? So you can get some exposure to Python and you get exposure to Playwright, and then the other 15% use that for Cypress in JavaScript, right? So now you are working across 3 different languages, right? Because the concepts are the same, it's the syntaxes that are different. So you're gonna have to adapt to those syntaxes, but you're still going to be implementing the page object model in the respective framework, in the respective language, right? So that's how I would upskill myself to be able to apply for any job, any automation job, right? Because then you know Playwright, you know Cypress, and you extensively know what the most popular one is, which is Selenium WebDriver. And you implement the page object model, and then you learn how to automate the APIs, all that good stuff, right? You do all of that. And now you have more opportunity. You're not limiting yourself to, am I going to do Cypress or am I going to do Selenium, Am I going to do Cypress or am I going to do Python? Am I going to do Selenium or am I going to do Playwright? Right? You know it all. Like you don't need to be the most knowledgeable on any one of them, but you know the concepts of automation, you know the concepts of testing. So now, if there's a Playwright job that comes available, you can apply for that, and it's on your resume that you know it, right? And now, so now if you have an interview for it, guess what? You say, all right, I am going to put Selenium WebDriver and Cypress on hold for a day or two, and I'm going to heavily focus on what are the additional features of Playwright that I can use. And now I go crush that interview, right? Or the same thing with Cypress. It doesn't really matter, right? The key is learn the concepts of automation. Get some get most of your familiarity with the most popular, but don't reject the ones that are like still there, right? That people still talk about. Because if you are joining a heavily front end team, you're probably going to be working on Cypress. So get some Cypress skills. Be able to apply for everything and anything. And that, my friend, is how you crush the game and you dominate over your competition. Because here, only the results matter, right? We are engineered to win, right? So that is what I would say about Cypress versus Selenium versus Playwright. Learn it all, allocate your time wisely, right? And go out there and win, right? So that's the only goal is to win. All right. So let's go to our next one. So let's see.
Another one.
This one says, big decision to make between a development internship versus a QA position. Who prefers testing over dev work here? All right. So with that being said, timer up. So I love both, right? So if you love both, why are you doing QA? Couldn't you make a lot more money doing development work? I mean, I probably could, but the reason that I like QA is because I like the innovative freedom to engineer, right? And to be able to being able to like explore and pioneer for the QA field. It's something that it's not really there's not really a lot of people involved in that, right? So I just get so much enjoyment and thrill out of it because I'm like, okay, just like, oh, how can I use Terraform to do this, right? How can I use actually I'm gonna show you something to answer this question, right? So let me see if I can find this real quick. Let's see if I can, because one of the coolest content creators in the data science industry, I asked them a question on a live stream and they were so kind enough to answer me. So let's see. Looking for it. All right.
What are you talking about? Q engineer. How are Q engineers involved in data science engineering teams? Oh, well, when I was working at my job, Q engineers were a really big part of data science engineering teams. Like specifically, we were testing out machine learning algorithms for like ads and things like that, and then also for like ethical considerations. I was on like the ethical side of things as well. Yeah, so a lot of it, like you need QA engineers to figure out, like you need to be able to anchor the algorithm to specific things. and you need to be able to test out specific things as well. So it plays a really big part with data scientists and the engineering teams, especially with, like, I would say from my perspective in the data science side, we work really closely with QA engineers as well as the engineering teams to help figure out what are the important frameworks for testing, because obviously you can't like test everything, right? There's too many things to test, to determine what it is to test, and also what kind of experiments can we make, because there's a limited amount of QA engineers, so there's a specific resource problem. It's like, how do we run experiments that are representative as much as possible of all the issues that could potentially come up? So there's very close interaction. On the engineering side, they would obviously show up with things like, hey, like this thing is not, like, we don't know if this thing is good, can you test it out? So there's a lot of that as well. Do you think it's okay to list your own company as...
All right. So thank you, Tina Hong, for your help answering that question. So to go back to what I was saying is that's why I prefer testing over dev work. I love doing dev work, right? But I like to do dev work on my own time. I like to explore. I like to learn. I like to learn how to do software engineering. I like to learn how to do front end development. I like to learn how to do data science. I was just talking to Miss Randy in the chat here, saying, "Hey, when you get to a certain section of the data, by the way, Miss Randy is a tech barbarian, my first tech barbarian to be exact, right? But I said, when you get to this certain section of the course, I'm gonna jump in there with you because I want to go over that section again. Data science. So that is that's why, like, on a professional level, the company that I work for, I don't know if I'll ever leave QA completely, but I have interest in like DevOps. I have interest in in infrastructure and stuff like that. But I still like the QA aspect of it, making sure things are right. And I think as QA, you get a lot of liberty to explore, to be innovative, to create. Not that you don't get that as like development, but I do think it's like very focused on a particular goal that that is trying to be achieved. Where for me at least, I've always been able to get a little bit more creative freedom in how I implement solutions for the software development team. So that's why I personally prefer testing professionally, over dev. But in like my own business and in my own life, I am very intrigued with all sorts of the software engineering industry. All right. So you do have a big decision to make. It just depends on what your interests are, where you want to go. But I don't think you can go wrong with any decision that you make, because doing development is an amazing job as well. Okay. So that is how I see that. All right, let's get to our next one.
Another one.
Do you write SQL as a QA engineer? And it says, I mean, sometimes it's convenient to change the state of the app by changing the database directly, but not every team or the responsible developer lets you do it. I want to know how many of you here are allowed to do it. So that is a good question. I would say that depending on the company that I've been in and the type of work that we do, depends. That is where it depends on how much SQL involvement that I've had, right? When I was directly involved in building an application, we were building it from the ground up. I was automating testing the database, right? So making sure that the schema was correct, making sure that what you would submit to the API would be entered into the database correctly, and what you would retrieve in the API would also retrieve from the database correctly. And then there were like queries that I would write and stuff like that. So it just depends on the level of involvement that you have. So like you said, the not every team or the responsible developer might let you do it. I think what happens in this case is I don't know what level of QA engineer that you are or QA tester that you are, but it is not up to the developers to dictate how you are going to test, right? But the problem also is in your question, you're talking about convenience. You know, convenience is state to change the state of an app by changing the database directly. As a QA engineer, I do not believe that it is like interacting with the database is about being convenient and changing the state of an app, right? It's about verifying that the database is working as expected. You know, is there a benefit in being able to change the database for an app? Sure, of course. But if that's your what you're using to sell, why you need access to it, it's not going to work, right? You need to implement testing strategies for the database. Okay, implementing testing strategies for the database that will say, okay, why do you need? So the developer asks, why do you need access to the database? Okay, well, I need to verify the schema. I need to verify that if I am entering text that is if the limit of the text says that it shouldn't take more than 50 characters, I need to make sure if I send 51 characters that I get an error. If I send 50 characters that it accepts it. Right? I need to do boundary testing. I need to make sure that if a field says that if a column is supposed to take integers, I need to make sure that if I send text to it, that it's going to give me an error. I need to validate the database, right? I need to do load testing on the database to make sure it can handle the load. You know, like I need to actually test the database during that implementation phase. Like that's what gives you access to the database. You need to like something that I notice with engineers is that we are open for change, but we just don't like changing stuff just to change stuff, right? We need the why behind it. And even if it's not a problem, it could be it could totally be not an issue to make a change, but it's hard for us to accept it if we don't know the reason why it's being suggested, right? So just have a strong argument on why do you need access to it. I've seen like a lot of people in QA use they're using like joins, left joins, right joins. I know Stephanie, she is practically a SQL expert at this point, right? Having to do queries and stuff like that, knowing about the primary key, and talking about databases for a second. An amazing content creator called Keep It Techie, he just released a 2-hour MySQL tutorial, right? And I was checking it out today. I got like halfway through it so far, and it is very, very good, right? So I would suggest like whoever you are, whether you want to be a database administrator, whether you're a QA engineer, go through that Keep It Techie tutorial so that you can so what I would do is use Docker, get some experience with Docker to install MySQL, and then log into that Docker instance of MySQL and go through the Keep It Techie MySQL tutorial, right? But anyways, QA engineers do use MySQL, or they use databases. They do database testing. You don't come at it as, oh, I want access to the database so I can make it convenient for my life. Nope, it's not about your convenience. It is about testing and come with a good plan to what are you going to do to test the database, right? Making sure that if I go to the website that and I enter a new user, it's going to hit the API, and the API is going to put it into the database. And then when I will go to retrieve that user, the API is going to take it from that database, and what is going to return on the site, right? So that is the way that the QA testers and engineers need access to the database to verify that everything is working smoothly. It's like an integration test, component testing, integration testing, all of that stuff, end-to-end testing, right? I go to the website, I do some action on there that's going to trigger the API, and the API is going to trigger the database. I go into the database to make sure that everything's on up and up. And then also the schema testing, all of that stuff, load testing, that is the approach, right? If you come at it with, it's just to make my life easier, then I would shut you down too. All right. So there we go with that. All right.
Another one.
This one says, I made a stupid joke in an interview, likely blew my chances.
Stupid.
All right. It says, it's not easy for me to find a job I like the sound of and am qualified for at the same time. This one sounded like perfection. Not like perfection. And I matched all of their requirements. I got invited to an interview with them, so I was ecstatic. I was nervous, but thought I was doing well with the standard job interview questions. They looked satisfied. But later, I got a bit relaxed and stupid threw in a bad joke. The topic was the dress code, and they said they didn't have any, and you can dress how you like. So, fooled by the more relaxed atmosphere, I said, oh, nice. So pajamas are allowed? To my horror, they didn't laugh, and I saw embarrassment on their faces. I wanted to slap myself for saying that. I would never wear anything stupid to work. The interview stress clouded my thinking, and I feel horrible now. It was awkward towards the rest of the interview. Goodbye, dream position. But wait, there's more. An update says, I did not get the job. Now waiting to see if I can receive feedback, but I am devastated. So, although your joke did kind of suck, right? Hey, good guy. What's up, good guy? So happy to see you here. And aren't you happy that the live stream didn't cut off? Well, let me knock on computer, because all of a sudden you're gonna see everything drops and it's a hell. But so happy to see you, good guy. Thanks for dropping by. I love good guy. He is such a good guy, must say. Okay. Anyways, what I was saying was, yeah, it was a terrible joke, stupid question. But to be honest with you, I don't think that's necessarily why you probably didn't get the job. It's I mean, I don't know who, it's a terrible joke, but it's not job breaking, I don't know. Unless somebody actually wore pajamas to work and they had a bad experience with it, and then now you triggered it and they're like, oh, yeah, we're not doing pajamas again, But here's the funny thing, right? I've been at companies in the past, and they'll be like, it's usually around Halloween week, and they're like, wear your pajamas to work, right? With the way that people are dressing nowadays, that might not be the best thing to do, because they might actually wear their pajamas to work. But it's supposed to be like a nice pajama-like thing, But either way, right? Let's get a little serious here, right? You should always be ready and be on point, right? Never let your guard down. I think that's part of the problem is that we let our guard down, right? We get comfortable with people that we don't know, right? That's what I'm saying. Like it's probably not a good idea, but um, but yeah, you never let your guard down. So I was talking to one of the members of the Patreon, right? Talking to her on the Discord, and I was telling her like there was one interview that I had. It was a really good opportunity, but I wasn't properly prepared for it. And she asked me like, "So do you mind like sharing what went wrong?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course, no problem, right?" So what I was sharing was that when one of the problems that we have is when we haven't like let's say you're working, right? And either you get laid off or you're trying to get to a new place, whatever the case may be, right? And you don't properly like it's your first interview, so you haven't interviewed in a while, maybe it's been a few years, so you know how to do the work, right? But when you go into that interview, you're not in the mindset to answer questions about like to somebody who doesn't know you, because you've been working with people who know you so much that like they're not asking you like these interview type questions. You just know how to go, you know how to roll with it. So what happened with me was I get asked like this basic question, like, tell me about the XML schema. I'm like, XML schema? Like, what are you talking about? Right. So like, I'm trying to think through it, and I answered the question, but it wasn't like very confident and everything like that. So, and I think that was like the part that, I think that was the part that kind of messed up that interview. Right. So it's like always being prepared, right? I didn't do any interview prep. Like I wish for that position that I had some what I'm gonna call throwaway interviews, right? Prior, so I can get into the mindset of interviewing and stuff like that. But like that one came through like a fast track recommendation, and I messed it up, right? Um, and and that's the part of like not being properly prepared. You know, when like in my past 15 years that I've been interviewing people as well, um y- you ever let's put it like this, right? You ever like be with a new group of people and someone who thinks they're funny, they're saying like all these like jokes to strangers that and it's like it's really not that funny, and it's like mm, you know you're just not that stand-up comedian guy, right? but but that's the thing, right? Know your audience. You don't know these people. You don't know what's going to trigger them one way or the other, right? So play the game to win. Don't, to me, I don't joke with people that I don't know or that I'm not close to, right? I'm going to, I'm going to be professional, and if I might say something that is slightly humorous, but it might be like and how I'm like, oh, how would you do this? Oh, I'd go do it like this. And this is how I'd be thinking about it, whatever the case may be. But I'm not going to, and to be honest with you, like I'm not even going to bring up dress code in an interview either, right? You know what? I think that what's important is to check out that video that I'm going to release about what are the questions to ask in the Patreon. Like, what is proper interview decorum, right? You know, a lot of times we sabotage ourselves because we do not adequately prepare for what we're going into. I think it kind of goes back into that first question about like the cybersecurity, which it's not just cybersecurity, because when data science was, or data engineering was the hot topic, then people was like, oh, I want to be a data engineer. What is data engineering, right? It doesn't work that way. So I think that you always need to be prepared at all times. Be prepared for to respond, to react. If you're like you had adequate time to prepare for your dream job, and you make a joke that's not worth making, I don't think that's really what would keep you from getting the job. It might be that plus other stuff in the interview that they saw. And the part about waiting for feedback, 99 times out of 100, you're not going to get any feedback. Like they tell you that you're rejected and they move on because guess what? Time is money. And giving that type of feedback is time that someone doesn't have because they're still looking to hire somebody, you know? Here's a little secret, right? If you don't get, if they're not moving forward with you, then you're off the consideration list. They're like, they don't have much to offer you at that time. It's a business, right? It's business. Treat it as that. Treat everything that you do as business, right? As Drake says, no friends in the industry. All right. So there we go. All right.
Another one.
Junior making mistakes. Is it normal to feel bad about mistakes? I cannot sleep at night if I do anything wrong at work. I'm a junior working 4 months on my first QA job. I feel bad all the time if I make mistakes or just scared to not make any. I cannot relax at all. I feel like I'm in constant stress. Is it common for juniors? Ooh, that is a good one. So, all right, let's take this point by point, right? Is it normal to feel bad about mistakes? I would say it is normal to feel bad about mistakes because, like, who likes making mistakes, right? However, I'm going to say this, right? You need to learn from your mistakes and try to avoid making the same mistake more than once. Will you make the same mistake more than once when you are only 4 months into your first QA job? Absolutely, right? But that's the part where you have to study. You have to write down like the mistakes that you made, what type of mistakes you made, the severity of the mistakes that you made. Here's my suggestions to you, right? Do postmortems on yourself. Do self-assessments on yourself, right? You need to see, okay, what went wrong, right? What could I have done better? How do I prevent it from happening again? And you go from there, right? You got to coach yourself up. Get a mentor, right? I was I was talking to someone the other day that I helped them with their resume, prepped them up for like interview and stuff. They got hired, and then they were telling me some stress that they were facing, and when the stress that they were telling me about was not the actual reason for their stress, right? It was towards the end, then they said, "Oh, this also happened," which I could have got fired for. I'm like, "Oh, okay, now I see why you're stressed," right? Luckily, nothing drastic happened, but you got to learn from your mistakes, and you can't fumble these kind of things because like it even as a junior, you're gonna make mistakes, but you gotta learn from them. But also, don't make stupid mistakes, right? Things that could be avoided. There's so much new technology out here that we just want to try and we want to use, and but you gotta see if it's allowed by the company that you're working for. You gotta see the nature of it. Ask questions, right? I would posit that the reason that you might be making mistakes, or I don't know how many you're making, but is because you might not be asking enough questions as a QA engineer, right? So QA tester, quality assurance tester, I'm going to change that to question all things, right? Good guy. What do you think about that? Question all things. That is the like QAT, right? Question all things, right? Whatever they say, what does that mean? Why are we doing it this way? Question all things. So because number one, it's going to give you better understanding, and the people that you're asking is going to make sure that they actually know what they're talking about, right? Question all things, all right? QAT, question all things. So let's keep going, right? You cannot sleep at night if you do anything wrong at work. I think now I think you have a problem, right? I would like to know, like, what is that you're doing so wrong that makes you not be able to sleep at night? Do you have a fear that you're going to get fired if you make a mistake? As a junior, 4 months in, I would expect you to make mistakes, and like I said earlier, seek out a mentor, right? Seek out a mentor who can guide you, which, like, when you're not sure about things, you can ask questions to, right? You can ask questions to, and they can help you and they can guide you. But I'll tell you this, right? As somebody who's been in QA for the past 15 years, I still make mistakes. But what do I do when I make mistakes? I do a postmortem and I fix them, right? And here's the thing, right? If you are a QA pioneer, right? If you're a QA pioneer, because here's the thing. We'll use Christopher Columbus, for example, right? He thought he was going to India. So when he landed in the Western Hemisphere, that was a mistake. But it was a pioneering mistake. You will make mistakes as you push forward, but you learn from those mistakes and you win that way. Right? You can't be losing sleep because you did something wrong at work. What's the worst case scenario? They fire you? Okay, well, once you get fired, then I guess you're gonna get either no sleep or great sleep, whatever, because you won't have that stress anymore, right? But maybe it's a new type of stress. But you shouldn't you should ask for help. How can I do better? Who can help me do better? Right? Who can help me do better? That's the question. Find a mentor. But you need to relax. Take a chill pill. All right? You cannot be in constant stress, because if you're in constant stress, you're not going to be able to do your job. You're going to do a terrible job. Right? And Good Guy wants to add to it. He says, also ask a manager or a senior for one-on-one and ask questions away. Exactly. He's 100% right. I'll put that on the screen for you guys, right? Ask a manager or senior for a one-on-one and ask questions away. See, and when you do that, right? When you ask a question, right? Check out the book. What is the name of that book? Never Split the Difference, right? By Chris Voss, former FBI negotiator. What do I need to do to be successful? Right? As that, like with Good Guy's suggestion, as that to your manager or a senior, right? And when you ask them, what do I need to do to be successful? You're asking them to give you a blueprint. And now follow their blueprint. And now if you make mistakes along the path of their blueprint, they can help you self-correct, right? They say, oh, this is the mistake that you made. You know, it makes them care more about you. Right? So that's what I would say. Like, you don't like, I understand you're feeling bad about mistakes. Everybody feels bad about mistakes, but you can't lose sleep over it, right? You can't feel that scared, because if you don't make any mistakes, you will never grow. If you like, I believe if you do not make any mistakes, right? You're not progressing. You're not growing. You're just doing exactly what you know how to do, and you will never grow that way. So, to me, I embrace mistakes. I embrace failing forward. If you haven't seen the Candid Conversation called Failing Forward, I would highly recommend that you go and check out the video of failing forward, right? The Candid Conversation Failing Forward, because that is the only way to grow. Right? That is the only way to grow. Learn from your mistakes and do better and win. All right? Shout out to Beatrice. How you doing tonight? 2 thumbs up and 2 hundreds. All right. Let's move on to the next one.
Another one.
our entry level, no experience QA job is pretty much non existent right now. I've been looking on LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, and Indeed, but the positions all require years of experience, which I don't have as a recent computer science graduate. It's definitely frustrating because I need a job to get experience, but nobody wants to hire someone with no experience, unfortunately. I also die a little inside every time someone hears that I'm a computer science graduate and says it's easy to get a job with a computer science degree. So, at first I was going to say flat out, yes, entry level, no experience career jobs are pretty much non-existent right now. However, when I saw that you said that you're a recent computer science graduate, that does offer some hope, right? But here's a question. Before you graduated, did you do an internship? Right? Believe it or not, that internship, so here's the difference, right? There are some boot camps that offer pretty much made up fake internships, right? But then there are, like, when you're in college, especially as a computer science major, you should be able to get a you should strive to spend your summer working as an intern for a software engineering, software development company, right? And that experience is actually valid, right? Seeing someone who's a fresh graduate who is also who did an internship for a company, that, to me, that experience is very valid, right? And that leads you into consideration. I know you might see that it says 3 to 5 years of experience and stuff like that, but guess what? It's not. When companies post this experience, it's posted the same way as so they might say like 3 to 5 years of experience, computer science, bachelor's degree in computer science, all that type of stuff, right? It is their nice to have, the same way that you have a nice to have that you'd want to make $1 million on your first job right out of college, right? Not going to happen. But at the same time, it's not easy for them to meet those exact requirements that they have as well, right? So if they have a requirement like this, right? We want somebody we want an entry-level person, 10 years of experience, right? We want to pay them $50,000 a year. We want them to be living in Arkansas for, I don't know why I always pick on Arkansas, but we want them to live in Arkansas, right? And we want them to, drive a Prius or something, right? They're probably not going to get that because nobody with 10 years of experience is entry level and is going to take the best that they'll probably get is the Prius, right? So I say apply it, like, regardless of that experience level, apply it. To me, it's about how do you present your resume, how do you present yourself, right? The first step is getting past the resume filters, right? The ATS. And then so that your resume can get into the hands of a actual recruiter. And then once you land that interview, crushing the interview, right? You need to be able to articulate yourself as if you have 3 to 5 years of experience. Even if you have like 1 year of experience, maybe it's you need to gain experience, right? And I have strategies on how you can gain experience. You can ask Randy in the chat, right? Like every day I'm sitting her hey, we're going to go after this in a few months. As soon as I believe that we're ready to go after these opportunities, we're going to go after them to get some experience. It's not even about the pay at that point, right? It's about, I need the experience. So we're going to implement different strategies to get that experience. Okay, so is getting a job, because something that you said, right, was you said, I also die a little inside every. Oh, so not that part, right? You said it's definitely frustrating because I need a job to get experience, but nobody wants to hire someone with no experience. It Here's a question, right?
Message.
Is the only way to get experience is working for a company, like a W-2 employee for a company? I think that you can create your own internship, right? I think you can create your own internship. I think you can create your own experience, right? It's just, how do you market it? I'm going to just give this one nugget, right? Because the rest is for the Patreon members, right? But you need experience, right? You want to get into QA, you need experience. Well, I am pretty sure that there are tons of small businesses who might have a little website or something locally to you that you can go to them and say, "Hey, I see that you have this website. I'm a recent computer science graduate, right? And I'm trying to get experience doing quality assurance. Do you mind if I would do quality assurance on your website or your application or whatever it is that they have, right? So that you can actually start building some real life test cases. Maybe build some automation suites for them, right? Can they pay you? Maybe not. But if you're trying to gain experience, is it more important that you get a few dollars or you get the experience and you get the ability to speak to network with people, explain to them what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how it benefits them, the strategy that you're using, right? And you get to put it on your resume. I worked for this mom and pop's store as a QA engineer. I wrote these test cases for them. Let's take an ice cream shop, for example, right? I worked for this ice cream shop as a QA engineer. Right? I worked for this ice cream shop as a data engineer. I gathered all their sales data and I made predictions. I said, okay, this is the type of ice cream that's being purchased more during this season. So we should ramp up purchasing this type of ice cream instead of this type of ice cream during the winter season. Or maybe winter's not the best example. Maybe during the summer season. This is the ice cream that's most purchased, right? So we're gonna get this one more. And then during maybe fall or winter, we get this one instead, right? Based on the data. You can do the same thing with QA, right? Maybe you are maybe you're starting to be a full stack developer, right? The same strategy applies, right? Mom and pop shop, maybe they have some crappy website, who knows? Or maybe they have no website. Approach them saying, hey, I'm trying to get some experience as a full stack developer, as a web developer, right? Do you mind if I build and host your website for you? Now you create this amazing website for them that you can add to your portfolio and you control it because you're hosting it, right? And because you're creating it, don't give them that much design creativity leverage over you, right? So those are like, I've said too much already, right? But those are the ways that you can build your own experience. See, with the tech barbarians, you can ask them. They are gaining so much experience over the strategies that I've implemented. They're going to be Scrum experts in the next few months. They're going to be very fluent with Jira. They're going to stop closing the parent tasks instead of their subtasks, right? But they're going to be experts. And that's my goal. I want them to be experts. I want them to make a lot of money. And as 50 Cent says, I want them to go straight to the bank with that one. All right. So that is what I would say for there's no entry level, no experience QA jobs. Create it. Create your own job, right? And go out there and win. All right. So let's get to the next one.
Another one.
Full stack QA specialist. In developer cycles, it's a common term, full stack developer. But what would it take for a QA specialist to be called a full stack QA specialist? QA who does manual testing and web automation testing and native mobile app testing, managing a team, etc. So that is an amazing question. So pretty much, what is a full stack QA specialist or full stack QA engineer, right? So let's do it. The only one I wouldn't add, so I would agree with your list. So I'm going to take your list of manual testing, web automation testing, native mobile testing, and managing a team, right? I'm going to remove the managing a team part to it because that managing a team is not part of. So a full stack QA engineer, specialist, tester, whatever you want to call it, right? They're going to be on the individual contributor route. They are not going to be on the manager route, right? So if you're managing a team, you're a manager, not an individual contributor. You are you might know how to do these things, but you're just not going to be able to do it all, right? It's impossible to manage a team and do manual testing, to do automation testing, to do mobile testing, right? It's just not going to happen. So I would agree that being able to do manual testing, being able to do analysis, like write test cases, the thing, and that's the thing. I don't even like manual testing. I like traditional testing, comprehensive testing, right? So you know how to. So I'm gonna break down what I would call a full stack QA engineer, right? So full stack, right? Starting from the very beginning, right? You participate from the very beginning of the software development lifecycle. That means you're in a Scrum team, right? When you are in refinement and grooming, you are contributing to the decisions that are being made on how the story is going to be built, on how the feature is going to be built, the implementation, the user experience, the acceptance criteria, right? From the very beginning, you are helping define the product. What is it? What are we going to do to make this product successful? To me, that's probably the most important part of being the full stack QA engineer, QA specialist, QA tester, right? Being part of the very beginning where you define, you have your fingerprint on the outcome of the product, right? The engineers, they have their fingerprint on it. The product manager, they have their fingerprint on it. The Scrum Master, not so much because they are, they're more managing the team, lifting impediments. They're doing the Scrum Masters do their own thing, but they don't really have their fingerprint on the actual outcome of the product. They have their fingerprint on the success of the product, right? And that's why I love Scrum Masters, right? But so we have our developers who have the fingerprint, we have the product owner, but QA needs to have their fingerprint as well. You need to be the advocate for the user experience, right? Because you can have the UX UI team build out how the interaction for the customer would go, but you have the practical working knowledge of that. So you need to put that fingerprint, you need to put your voice on the customer experience part of it, right? Be the advocate for the customer, right? So that's the first part. Now, you also need to know, okay, now I need to create a test plan for this product, right? That is going to help us be successful, right? We want to limit the amount of bugs, right? So full stack, I would say, before the developers even start to implement, you get involved with them, saying, all right, this is my test plan. This is how I'm going to approach it. I want you guys to know this in advance so you guys can have an idea of what I'm going to be doing, right? So you can, so that way, with that in their mind, they're going to be building based on your test plan to make sure that we reduce the amount of bugs that we're going to find, all right? So now, so that's in the planning phase of testing, right? So now, once the developers are done and they say, okay, QA, I've dev tested this and it's working on my end. It now belongs to you to start testing. So now your test. So you're gonna do some manual tests, right? And do some manual tests because before you can even automate, you're going to have to do some manual testing. So you're doing your manual test and you're making sure everything's working. Well, why are you doing that? You also have in mind, all right, what are my automation opportunities? So now you can also, part of the full stack, you can also automate it, right? You can also automate it so that you have automated tests. You can run regression tests for whenever changes are made. You're able to run your tests and make sure that nothing existing breaks, right? But wait, there's more, right? So, if there's mobile, of course, be able to do the mobile as well. But very important is that you are able to run your test through the CI/CD pipeline, right? So, and if you don't have one, then part of full stack is being able to set up a CI/CD, right? You might have to set up a Jenkins, you might have to set up a Circle CI, you might have to set up a Team City. I remember at my last company when I was like brought in to do automation on a different part, separate from the existing QA team, right? And they were using Team City. So on my very first week working there, I figured out, I went and I installed Team City using Docker, I believe, and I configured it, and I had a whole pipeline running through Team City for our automated tests, right? Eventually, I ended up switching that to Jenkins because it was requested to, but I was able to do it, right? And when I set up Jenkins, I did it through Docker. So being able to set up your CI/CD pipeline is also part of being full stack, but
Message.
also being able to set up your own infrastructure, right? That is also full stack, right? Being able to use Docker to set up MySQL, being able to use Docker to set up Selenium Grid, being able to use Docker to set up my CI/CD pipeline, to set up Jenkins, to set up Team City, to set up Circle CI, whatever the case may be, right? That is also full stack. And to add, being able to create your own automation framework, that is also full stack, right? But here's the thing. Here's the secret, right? There is no limit to being full stack, because full stack really means as technology advances, you also advance with the technology. There's no clear-cut definition of what full stack means. Full stack to me means you're always evolving. So what do we mean by always evolving? So before, I would log into AWS, set up a EC2 instance, go log SSH into the EC2 instance, set up Docker, right? Set up Docker on it, and then set up whatever software, maybe the Selenium Grid, maybe report portal, whatever the case may be, which is another thing. Full stack, being able to report, being able to provide metrics on your automation, right? Being able to triage defects, being able to properly report defects, right? But like I was saying, right? Because that's a given, right? But I would go into AWS and set it up, right? That's being full stack. But now what do? We pushed ourselves forward to using Terraform. So now, if I want to set up some infrastructure for using like AWS or Azure or Google Cloud Platform for my automation needs, right? Full stack means I'm going to do it through Terraform, do infrastructure as code, right? Full stack is evolution. That's all that it is, right? What can you do? And I can't speak for the developers, right? But I'll tell you this. I see the developers that I work with going into different databases, whether it's SQL or whether it's Mongo or whatever the case may be, right? They do that type of work. They do Terraform. They do infrastructure work. right? And I believe that as QA engineers, you need to be able to test those and you need to be able to build them for your own QA needs as well. That is what I believe that full stack QA is, right? Is being able to be comprehensive in any QA thing that you do. All right. All right. Last question for the night before we call it quitsies. All right. So
Another one.
SDETs, software development engineers in test. How important is leet code when applying for automation roles? Is knowing data structures and algorithms a requirement when applying to these jobs? Do you need to grind like developers do? So, I think it depends on the job that you're applying for, right? So, SDETs, software development engineers and tests, QA automation engineers, QA testers, QA engineers. There is no clear set definition of them, right? Different companies define them differently. So, for example, at my company, right, we have QA engineers, right, at different levels. So you might be a QA1, QA2. You could be a QA specialist. You could be a QA2, QA3, senior QA, lead QA, staff QA, principal QA. If you're on an individual contributor route, right? So we don't have SDETs, right? But you can consider. I consider myself an SDET, right? Because of the type of work that I do. I do automation. I do infrastructure. I do frameworks. I do what else do I do? I do it's an infrastructure. I can do cloud stuff. I do pretty much I do anything, right? I do API testing. I can do mobile testing. I can do anything, right? So some companies might consider that as that. Some companies might say that, oh, that's QA automation engineer. Some companies say like it's comprehensive, right? Like you can do everything, right? You're a QA engineer. Depending like whatever level you fall in at, that's the level that you fall in at, right? So it just depends, right? It depends. So now for your question is, how important is lead code when applying for automation roles? I would say that it is not important at all. It might be important to that company that you're applying for, but it's not important at all, right? Is knowing data structures and algorithms a requirement when applying to these jobs? It is not a requirement, right? Is it good that you know it? Sure. But what I value the most, right, is critical thinking and how do you handle situations? How do you handle challenges? To me, being a QA engineer is not about data structures. It's not about algorithms. It's about mindset. It's about critical thinking. It's about strategy, right? I'll give you an example. I was doing a code review, right? And I asked a question and I got an answer for it, right? But it wasn't until like 2 days later, which like today I'm like, oh, I have another question about this, which might not be the I just have a question to ask, right? To make them think some more. When I'm interviewing people, I'm looking for how they think, their mindset, and that's one of the reasons I appreciate what Don is doing with Chaos Camp, right? Because it gives us a view into how the mind of the QA person is thinking, and those challenges also force you to become a better QA engineer, right? And they're not about algorithms or data structures. It's about getting through the mess, right? I believe that QA engineers deal with chaos on a daily basis, right? They deal with chaos. And by what I mean by dealing with chaos is we're like firefighters, right? We're technical firefighters. Okay. We go into these roles and we're like, all right, we have to something is happening, especially when it's like a production bug, right? But we try to prevent fires in the development environment, and we're saying, okay, let's test this. Let's make sure that we don't have any bugs. Let's we have to have a comprehensive plan to make sure we try to catch as much as possible, so we do not have much customer impact. But let's say we do have customer impact. Now we have a fire. We have to deal with it. And that's what like, and that's why that you can have QA engineers who are on call, just like the developers are on call, right? Because you have to deal with these fires, and we all rally together to fix things, right? That is our goal. We want to fix things. All right. So with that being said, um, it's it's not about it's not generally it's not about knowing the data structure. It's not about leak code or hacker rank and stuff like that, right? It's about um, what's being asked. But at the same time, it depends on the company, because there could be a company where you're more like the assets are more like a QA factory, where they might only work on the framework and they're making things available for the lower level QA testers to be able to automate. So they like so let's say you have lower end, like maybe manual testers, or maybe just like QA engineers who do automation, but they're just feeding off the framework. So maybe you're responsible for the framework, right? So if you are responsible for only the framework that you're making available for the lower level QAs, then at that point, the data structures and the algorithms might be more important, because you have a because you're just a developer at that point, right? You're like the name says, software development engineer and test. So you're developing for the testing infrastructure. You are not doing the full end-to-end testing, right? See, me, I take part in the full end-to-end. I'm responsible for the whole QA for the whole team, right? But if you are just playing a portion of it, right? If you're just a software developer for test, then it might become more important to be worked with the data structures, the algorithms. So the lead code at that point might be more important for you. It just depends on the role that you're applying for. Do counter intel on the role that you're applying for, right? Read the description carefully, study the description, see what is the actual job that you're applying for, and then you can know how important is it going to be for your data structures and your algorithms, or for your critical thinking ability, right? Um, I don't think that there's been many jobs where I've had to. I don't think any job interview that I had where I had to like break down data structures and algorithms. Asking me like make a list or whatever the case may be, right? It's usually by what I am able to do, my capabilities from a critical thing. Like, here's the thing: when you get hired, right? They're hiring you for your mind, right? How do you think? How creative you are? How innovative you are? How can you push the company forward, right? Um, Anybody can answer questions about data structure. Anybody can get a certification and stuff like that. The key is, what do you have up here? How do you use what you have up here? All right. Are you creative? Are you innovative? Do you think critically? Do you stand out? Right. So that is that. All right. So yeah, I don't think the lead code and stuff like that are that critical for automation roles, right? Unless the role that you're applying for is specifically only doing development for testing. If you don't have any other involvement in the software development lifecycle, or you're on a particular project, then it might be very important, and you might need to know the data structures and the algorithms and all that type of stuff. But generally, no. And do you grind like developers do? That's a hard question to answer, right? Because developers grind in their own way, and QA grind in their own way, right? Me, I I don't grind like developers do. I grind like QA engineers do, right? And I'm always pushing forward to learn more, to do more, and to. So I'll give you an example, right? Quick example. Working through Docker to make our testing strategy better. setting up infrastructure for reporting, on QA metrics, right? A project I'm going to take on is like getting familiar with the AWS secrets manager to make our passwords, like how we manage our passwords better, right? That's not a developer's role, right? I'm doing this for QA. So I'm grinding for QA. I'm grinding like QA. I'm not grinding as developers do. All right. So that is that. And with that being said, we are at the end of our show tonight. All right. So thank you to all who showed up. And let's get this off the screen. And before we go, let's throw in one of these.
I mean, all we do is win, man. You know that.
All we do is win. Yes, we do. All right. So that's it for tonight, right? So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for showing up. I want to say thank you to Beatrice for being here. I want to say thank you to Good Guy for being here. Right? Always a pleasure when you pop up. I know you're always watching, but Good Guy who helped me catch 2 weeks ago, Good Guy says, did the stream go down? I'm like, oh crap, it did go down, and I got it back up. So thank you for Good Guy for always watching from the clouds, and always appreciate when you tune in. Thank you to Miss Randy for showing up tonight. I appreciate you for being here as always.
I appreciate you.
And whoever else who was here that I didn't get to talk to, right? Didn't get to talk to Don tonight, but he will most likely be here on Thursday night. So thank you so much, everyone, for showing up, and I appreciate it all. And it was great to finally be able to live stream with you guys again. I missed you guys tremendously, but it's time to go. It is time to go tonight. And we will be back here again on Thursday night where we're doing software explorations. I'm going to try to go through Airflow again, but if not, we will do something else. And once we get Airflow right, we will, as Kanye said, wait till I get Airflow right. Then you can't tell me nothing. All right. So that's the plan for this coming Thursday. Tune in 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Can't wait to see you there, but the time has come. So until next time, my friends, my family, my barbarians,
You might think that getting into the IT field is impossible without a computer science degree, but Tech Coach Ralph is here to prove you wrong. Get ready for some jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into this lucrative industry. Listen up, tech enthusiasts. Are you ready to break through into the IT field, but feel like you need a computer science degree to make it happen? Think again. Tech Coach Ralph has some exclusive, mind-blowing secrets to share with you. Get ready to be blown away by his jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into the tech industry without a computer science degree. So get your notepad ready, because Tech Coach Ralph is going to change your life forever. Buckle up, because you're about to embark on a journey to success in the IT field.
Hear me, warriors of the North. Today we have tasted the sweet nectar of victory. Our foes indeed defeated, and their lands are now bound before us. The gods themselves have favored our glorious deeds on this glorious day. We have shed blood, sweat, and tears to claim this land. Our relentless spirit, our unyielding determination. These are the very essence of our people. The spirit of our ancestors rejoice in the halls of Valhalla. For today, we have added to their eternal glory. Our victories will echo throughout the ages, and our names will be etched in the annals of history. But let us not forget the present pain, the brothers and sisters we lost. They now feast in the hall of our forefathers, watching over us with pride. Their sacrifice has paved the way for this moment of triumph. As we celebrate this conquest, let us also remember that our journey is far from over. More land awaits our conquest, more battles upon us forth. And the fire in our hearts burn ever brighter, for there is no limit to what we can achieve. To those who dare stand against us, let them tremble in fear, for they shall witness the fury of the northern storm, the wrath of the untamed barbarians. Today we celebrate our victory. Tomorrow we set our sights on new horizons, a charted land where our banners will fly high. We are Vikings, we're barbarians, we are masters of conquest.